Hi, it's Sabrina. Join me with a lineup of incredible experts as we inspire you.
It's you transcending
to redesign your life. I love this, one small change at a time. This is the Sabrina Soto Show. Come on in. Welcome to my home and the Sabrina Soto Show. Today's intention is to nourish our minds and bodies with amazing conversation and delicious food. Later, we're going to be joined by clinical psychologist Dr. Ramani, but first we have author and psychotherapist Terri Cole and first female Iron Chef and restaurateur Kat Cora. I could not be more excited and grateful. Let's get started. Hi, ladies.
Well, hello.
I'm thrilled to have you both here. Terri, you and I have been friends for years now, and I think you are incredible. You have the book Now Too Much and Boundary Boss.
I do.
Kat, I mean, I just look up to you so much, not just because of your career, but what you stand for, who you are. And I know that we have a little bit in common because of not having the best boundaries sometimes in our personal life. Let's get started because I need all the tips that you can give. The book, it's called Too Much, and I feel like I am too much a lot. Yeah.
Extra.
Because I feel like I don't know how to say no without feeling guilty. Do you feel like you have that as well?
I do. I think I've grown a little bit from that. I actually am a boundary setter. And I think sometimes I probably set too many boundaries, but is there a thing that you can set too many boundaries?
You set too many, I don't set enough.
I do set a lot of boundaries, but that comes from, childhood trauma and not trusting and losing trust at a young age and feeling scared a lot.
Yes, I think it is a thing because you can have boundaries that are too porous, which is what you're talking about, which is too loose, or they can be too rigid. And that's what you're describing, where it's sort of like creating more walls rather than boundaries for safety. And a lot of times it's the illusion of safety. Women in particular struggle with this. I mean, I've been a therapist for almost 3 decades. And in my therapy practice, nobody teaches anyone how to set boundaries, the language of boundaries, how to do it. That's why I wrote my first book, because all my clients were suffering in the same way that I used to when I was younger, because, what do they say? You teach what you most need to learn. So I feel like this is a valuable conversation for anyone who feels like it's hard to say no or who is doing too much in their lives. When women create boundaries, it can be perceived as being aggressive, because if you look at the way that we've been indoctrinated into the system, what is femininity? Be compliant. Smile. Hey, little girl. Exactly.
Don't talk too much. Don't talk too loud. Don't, tell people what you really think. I think that's, part of being in a male-dominated industry.
Yes. Can you talk about that?
Yes.
That's
please.
something that I struggle with a lot. I am someone who sets boundaries, and I think that came from my parents because they set healthy boundaries and communicated, and I saw that example. But also, again, going back to childhood trauma, I said it because I didn't trust anybody. I lost trust at a really young age. That just came from sexual abuse, and I'll just be honest, sexual abuse from a cousin. And so my trust was shot from 6 years old. So I really started setting boundaries pretty stringently. But I have learned to say, I'm not okay with this, but I'll be okay with this.
Right.
To try to balance that out some, because there was a time when it was so stringent because of my fears.
Yes.
And I didn't want to get hurt, and I didn't want people to hurt me. So I set boundaries.
There's a hyper independence that can come from when you don't trust people, like you said, having disordered boundaries, being a high-functioning codependent. All of that comes with hyper-independence, which in one way is great because we become successful and make empires and write books and do lots of things. But in another way, it's very exhausting.
Yes.
And the lack of trust that you talked about negatively impacts our relationships, because what we want is to not be codependent, right? We want to be interdependent, meaning there is a healthy form of codependency. And I find most high-functioning codependents or people with disordered boundaries are really good at giving. I know you are, and really crappy at receiving.
Yes.
That is, yes.
Yeah.
You just hit the nail on the head.
How can we tackle something like what Kat's going through in a more healthy way instead of micromanaging? Like, where do we start?
Well, we have to know how we feel. A GPS to get you there is doing a resentment inventory, because where you're feeling resentment is probably where you're overgiving or overfunctioning, or maybe a boundary needs to be put in place. So let's say it's with a sister. I feel resentful because she comes to my apartment and she uses her keys to borrow my clothes and not tell me. That was a real live example from my life.
Yeah, that sounds personal.
So I'm like asking for a friend. And so now I'd have to look and go, okay, I'd write that down as the example, but I'd have to look and say, all right, what is my 50% of this situation? Well, my 50% was not saying anything about it, being passive aggressive rather than direct. So now you go, okay, what is the fix? I need to tell my sister if she wants to continue to have the key to my apartment, she will need to ask me to borrow my stuff. With boundaries, they will not set themselves. No one else knows your preference, your desire, your limit, or your deal breaker. That's on you, that's on you, that's on me.
Taking that one step further, after you set the boundaries, what I deal with, because I read your book, then I feel like, yeah, I got this. Then I set a boundary and then I feel guilty. So how do you deal with the guilt after you set the boundary?
Relationships are like a dance. And when you change your steps, the other person is going to notice.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to challenge that feeling. So we're going to lovingly and with compassion question, do I actually have a reason to feel guilty, or am I just so used to feeling guilty that it is a habituated behavior, not a real behavior that is warranted for this situation? Because I think that most women, we are raised and praised to be self-abandoning codependents.
Yes.
And it is not what we want to teach our daughters or our sons. When you're a high-functioning codependent, you're all like, our mantra is, I got it. I got it. I got it. It's not a big deal. And it has to be me, because we don't think that other people will do it the way that we want it done a lot of times.
Are you in my head?
Yes. You have to acknowledge to yourself that how you feel, what you think, and what you want matters. And I think we have to be proactive with our boundaries. You know that you have a tendency to give yourself away, so be proactive with your schedule. Write it in, because that's something that you're going to be so much better for everyone in your life. Because what happens when we give ourselves away? Eventually, we get bitter.
So if I did everything in your book and I created a lot of boundaries, tell me how a life can transform.
Not a lot of boundaries. If I set healthy boundaries regularly, part of it is you would be less exhausted. There's a real practicality to healthy boundaries where we just have more expansion in life. We have more inner peace because we're not saying yes when we want to say no under the guise of being nice. So I feel like the life that you're meant to live is on the other side of healthy boundaries.
For anyone listening, it's about taking baby steps, right, Terri?
Yes.
So if you can give anyone listening or watching this some tips of how to really set boundaries, create a different scenario in their life, what would it be?
I think we really have to stop the auto yes. So if you're someone who's just a people-pleasing yes person, even if you're very high functioning, we have to stop that auto yes. So how you can do it is you can actually buy time, which can just sound like, oh, hey, I need to check with my partner, or I need to see if I have time on my calendar. And then you can say, I'll give you an answer by the end of the week. I'll let you know by tomorrow. We can always set boundaries with compassion and care.
One thing that I've started doing in text is I'll say at the end of it, like, no pressure.
But again, you're managing how someone else feels.
So
right?
that's not a good thing.
doing it
But
wrong.
I did that. I thought that was a good thing. I thought I was like,
Nope.
What I want to know is how do we protect ourselves? So you can then say, I'm going to dinner now, so I'm jumping off. So you relieve yourself from feeling obligated to get back to someone.
From what I gather, we have to buy time, no auto yeses, deal with the guilt, and it's baby steps.